Robin's with you in the afternoons.
I've got Jane Ehrman here from imagesofwellness.com joining me. I always love the days I get to hang out with you, Jane. I know we've got some really great things we want to be talking about. We're sitting here in the end of October, and I know as well as you do, it's going to be we're just going to blink and all of a sudden the holidays are going to be upon us, right?
Absolutely.
So it may seem a little early to start talking about the upcoming holidays, but in truth, they're kind of here right before we know it, right? And along with the holidays comes a different set of stressors like gift giving, travel, family gatherings, and sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes drama, right? Mm-hmm. So what can we do to manage these issues at the holidays?
Well, let's start with gift giving and spending. Many of us go overboard at the holidays over spending. Our culture sends this kind of a message too. You know, the TV commercials, we've all seen them with the husband who gets his wife an SUV and she gives him a pickup truck and they're both in the driveway Christmas morning. Really?
With the big giant bow.
With the big giant bow. Who does that? Or the major networks TV morning programs where they show, oh, here are the top gifts this year in these high-end jewelry, furs, designer bags, clothes, sports cars. Again,
always
unrealistic for most of us.
Right.
So let's get real about gift giving. And the key two words are spend responsibly. When it comes to not only gift giving, but the holiday, the other expenses that go with it. Determine how much money you have available to spend on gifts, on preparations like food, decorations, clothing, that kind of thing. Stay within your budget. You know, we're swiping credit and debit cards and it's easy, but when you don't realize how much you're spending, that's a problem. And then January and February credit card bills can be a shock. And in fact, it contributes to depression in January and February when you haven't paid attention to your spending in December.
Right. I would imagine. And it's like you get so caught up in the holiday bustle and the advertising and 'tis the season, the whole thing. It's swipe, 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 swipe. And you're right. Unless you're really vigilant about keeping track, you're checking it online on the regular, it can really be a big shock. And
absolutely.
January is always kind of a letdown anyway, because all these holidays have come to a close. It's dark really early. It's cold. There's not much on the horizon happening unless you make it happen. And then to be saddled with giant credit card bills.
Yeah, it's a mess. So also have a conversation with family and set a reasonable spending limit on gifts. And you have to do this early. Now may be almost too late for the people who have most of their shopping done, but there are always those, yeah, I'm not one of them.
Right.
There are those who are still trying to get stuff together. So have a conversation with the adult members about maybe a limit of $20 or $30 on the kids, or adult siblings and in-laws discuss, you know, how much do you want to spend, or maybe these holidays aren't super where you give big gifts.
Right.
Grandparents maybe donate to their favorite charity, or truly a gift of time together. I think a lot of grandparents really appreciate not babysitting time, but time when you're really hanging out and just enjoying each other.
Or maybe an event or something to do together. Just because so many people as they get older too are downsizing. My folks have flat out told us we don't need more stuff.
Yes. Because they don't want the stuff later either.
No.
Our younger kids, absolutely. So also consider homemade baked goods or handmade gifts, scarves, hats, plants, printable gift calendars. We had a family member who always gave us that at Christmas. So you have pictures for each month from different events that family were in, and, you know, dates that are marked, so-and-so's birthday, that kind of thing.
That's funny. My parents do that every year for us, and I love it, especially because, like you said, all the family anniversaries and birthdays are already on it. But both my parents are artists, and so they take pictures of their art and put it on. So we have a different month. But if you had children, you could do that with your children's art.
Absolutely. And you can get printable gift calendars. Go online. A lot of different places make them available. And again, considering the gift of time with loved ones, a day with them, or tickets to a movie or a show together. And as far as expense of hosting gatherings, include others. People don't like coming empty-handed, so invite their help. Ask people to bring their favorite dish or one you want them to bring. Or how about a simple centerpiece for the table? or a favorite dessert, something that they feel good about bringing, and it just makes it easier because it's one less thing you have to do.
Holiday or not, I always feel guilty if I show up to somebody's house without something. And, you might as well make it part of the main meal, even if you can.
Absolutely.
So what about family gatherings? That family member that's always complaining or late to gatherings or just is simply uncomfortable to be around. And I'm thinking especially with Thanksgiving being just a couple weeks after the election, we probably have some family members we're dreading to see.
Right. It might make for uncomfortable conversation. And in our next segment, we'll talk about some conversation starters that make things easier.
Great.
But for this, being with family, there are times of happiness and stress. And during the holidays, it's often both. And honestly, if you don't get along with somebody 364 days of the year, what makes you think you're going to get along with them on the 364th?
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. So maybe over the years, holidays have caused you anxiety about getting together, and for good reason. And if so, plan for how you'll manage your responses. Do you remember a few segments ago, I talked about rehearsal imagery?
Absolutely.
Rehearsing how you want to go through a situation. So it goes for this. Planning for these gatherings is a good time to rehearse how you want things to go, especially with difficult individuals. So here's an example. When Aunt Zelda lobs that zinger comment, because she always does,
right,
rather than getting upset and just shooting your mouth off and saying something that's just going to make things worse, you say, I just might give that some consideration. And you say it with a calm voice, pleasant look on your face, then smoothly shift the conversation to something different and positive. Have some ideas ready for that. Practice in front of a mirror. And you might think I'm nuts, but the truth is, when you do, you can see what your face looks like when Aunt Zelda has this tendency to do the lob. And you just might, and this has happened for me, sometimes that actually stops Aunt Zelda from lobbing future zingers because she didn't get the reaction she was hoping for. Sometimes it's that recurrent, asks a question that knows it's just going to push a button for you and everybody else at the table stops breathing.
Right.
What's going to happen? And when that happened in the family situation I was in, it happened every year. And I thought, I have short-term memory loss? What is it?
Right.
And I just said, well, thank you for suggesting that. I'll give it some thought.
And she can't argue with you because it blew
her mind.
You haven't agreed with her, but you haven't disagreed with her. You didn't take the bait.
No, and she never saw it coming. And everybody else could breathe. And I went on to something else, and it never happened again.
That's a great idea.
So also for the person who always shows up late to dinner, we had a family member who was that. Ask them to bring an item that isn't necessary. I always asked her to bring the dinner rolls because we could live without the dinner rolls. Or maybe have them bring the extra beverage. Avoid holding things up, waiting for their arrival. Start dinner on time. Why make those who've arrived on time wait for the ones who don't manage their time well? And also it messes up sometimes the way, what's ready for dinner, what's ready to be put on the table and be plated, and what's going to get dry or cold or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So, and if you're attending a gathering that's particularly challenging for you, let the host know ahead of time that you're going to be there only for a limited amount of time. It's important to take care of your needs. And if being in that atmosphere, that environment is truly highly stressful, then manage it by staying there an appropriate amount of time, but then, have other plans to do something else.
That's a great suggestion. You don't have to give a reason why, and it's already handled ahead of time, so there's no uncomfortableness that day. Well, if you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Jane Ehrman of Images of Wellness, and we're talking about that end of the year holidays and stress. Yes, I know it's still October, but they are going to be right on top of us sooner than we know.
Look at it this way, Robin. Most people have already eaten the Halloween candy they bought and have to buy more.
Right.
So really the holidays.
I have not bought any yet for that reason. I don't trust myself.
And I buy candy I'll never touch. So it works out that way.
Good idea.
But the holidays really start with Halloween and they don't end until Valentine's Day.
Oh,
so we're always, there's the Super Bowl in between that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just booked flights for both my daughters to make it home for Thanksgiving together. So what can you tell us about travel stress? And do you have any tips for making travel smoother?
Oh, traveling at the holidays can be especially challenging. Plan for delays because they're likely to happen. Schedule connecting flights if you have them with a good 50 minutes between connections, because being late for that connecting flight's a real problem. Plan for changes of weather. Climate change is real, and shifts in the weather happen sometimes unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
If you're traveling with smaller kids, or even for yourself, have snacks. And for
Snacks
kids,
make everything better.
always. So have snacks for the kids and quiet toys, books to read, movies to keep them occupied. Be prepared for their fatigue, which tends to come sooner than everybody else's.
Right.
So you can hopefully avoid the meltdowns.
Changes in schedule and everything else that goes along with that.
Right. And make sure important items like your medications and a change of clothes and other items you might need if you're delayed are in your carry-on bag. That's really important.
Absolutely.
So if you're driving long distances, leave with plenty of time getting you to your destination with some breaks in between. Be prepared for heavy traffic, for difficult weather. And this has been a rule in our family. It's helpful to have an adult in the front seat. I call it the navigator seat. Okay? Awake and alert, to make sure the driver is awake and alert. Because if you've been working all day and then you're getting in the car and you're doing this travel, and you end up with that highway hypnosis because you know the white line's going by and it's warm, it's quiet, you're tired. Everybody else in the car is already asleep.
Especially on roads like I-5 or something where there's not a whole lot to look at.
Exactly. Take breaks to stretch, to get some fresh air, to use the restroom, to get a snack.
These are such great suggestions. So you've given us a lot to think about as we approach the holidays. Any last words for us about holidays, stress?
Be responsible in your spending and gift giving. Be prepared in how you want to respond to difficult family members by coming up with being the best of yourself, and plan ahead for safe travels. In our next segment, Robin, I'll be offering tips for meaningful, positive conversations around the holiday table, practicing self-care during the holidays, and how to manage the blues when the holidays aren't so cheerful for you.
Oh, I can't wait for that one, because there are a lot of things you just said that resonate for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, thank you. I've been talking with Jane Ehrman from imagesofwellness.com, so you can check out more information there. We've been talking about holiday stress, and you'll be able to get this discussion and conversation on her website as well. Thanks, Jane, so much for talking with me. I always love having you in.
Thanks, Robin. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
99.3 The Vine is proudly owned and operated locally by Wind Down Media.